Welcome to the 21st Century Man podcast. We're diving deep again, chapter by chapter, into the book, The 21st Century Man.
That's right. And today we're tackling chapter 42. It's called Emsculpt, high-tech muscle building.
Yeah, this one's fascinating. Our goal today, really unpack this chapter. We're looking at, well, the tough reality of muscle aging for men. Why just hitting the gym might not be enough, and then exploring this high-tech angle, Emsculpt, for building muscle and maybe trimming some fat.
And the book does a great job laying out these practical details, doesn't it? This chapter is packed.
Absolutely. So stick around. We'll get into why you might be losing muscle earlier than you think, how electricity and magnets can actually build muscle, which sounds wild.
It does sound a bit sci-fi, yeah.
And we'll look at some pretty compelling results mentioned in the book.
Okay, so where does the chapter start? It hits you right away with a fact that honestly might be a bit of a shock for some listeners.
Yeah. What's that?
It states pretty clearly that muscle loss for men often starts kicking in when you're over 30.
Over 30. Seriously, that feels young for that kind of decline to start.
It does, but the chapter breaks down the biology. It's not just one thing. You've got fewer muscle stem cells, which you need for repair.
Okay.
Your body doesn't absorb protein quite as well. The energy factories in your muscles, the mitochondria, they slow down a bit. And then there are the hormones, testosterone, growth hormone. They peak in your mid-20s, and then it's a gradual slide down. So it's like a multi-front battle against muscle loss, starting earlier than most probably realize.
Wow. Okay, so what happens then? What are the effects of losing muscle bit by bit like that? It sounds like it could snowball.
Oh, it definitely can.
Yeah.
The book talks about this vicious circle. You lose a bit of strength, so maybe everyday things feel harder, carrying groceries, climbing stairs.
Right.
Then, because it's harder, maybe you become a little less active.
Which makes you lose more muscle.
Exactly. And that increases your risk of falls later on, can impact your independence. The chapter links it to serious outcomes, even premature death.
Yeah.
And it even throws in that stark quote from the Lancet Journal, about how globally obese people now actually outnumber underweight people.
Yeah, I saw that. Really puts the focus on needing both muscle gain and fat loss, doesn't it?
Precisely. Muscle isn't just for show. It's, 30–40% of your body mass? It's huge.
And vital for just living, breathing, blood flow.
Keeping things stable internally, glucose, fats, proteins. So losing muscle quality and quantity as we age, it's tied directly to wider metabolic problems, feeling less energetic.
Okay, that paints a clear picture of the challenge. But there's good news, right? The chapter does emphasize exercise.
Absolutely. That's the first line of defense.
Right.
The book is clear. The right kind of exercise can slow down, prevent, and even reverse some of this age-related muscle loss.
How does exercise help exactly, according to the chapter?
Well, it boosts your mitochondria, those energy producers. It helps with protein turnover, so your muscles use protein better. It replenishes signaling molecules. Basically, it keeps the muscle machinery running better. Exercise is fundamental.
But, and this is where it gets really interesting in the chapter, exercise has limits, even if you're doing everything right. It mentions workout efficiency. What's that about?
Yeah, that's a key concept. It's about how much of your muscle you can actually use when you consciously contract it, like during a workout.
Okay.
The chapter suggests even if you're going all out, you might only be engaging around 60% of the muscle fibers, maybe up to 80% for, really elite athletes.
Only 60–80%. Why? Why can't we use all of it if we're trying our hardest?
There's an evolutionary reason proposed in the book. It's basically a safety mechanism.
Ah, to stop us from hurting ourselves.
Exactly. Think back to caveman days. If you tore a major tendon pushing too hard voluntarily, you couldn't hunt. You couldn't escape danger.
Yeah.
You probably wouldn't survive or reproduce. So our bodies evolved this governor, this limit.
That makes a lot of survival. So how does a muscle actually work then? The basic mechanism.
The chapter explains it pretty simply. Brain sends a signal, goes down the spinal cord,
Whoa.
out through a nerve to the muscle. That nerve signal zaps the muscle cells, changes their electrical charge, and makes tiny fibers inside slide past each other. That's the shortening, the contraction. Relaxation is just them sliding back.
Simple enough. But if we're capped at 60–80%, what about those stories? The mom lifting her car off her kid. The chapter talks about maximum capacity.
Right. That's the proof that the potential is there. Under extreme stress, that adrenaline rush, Your brain can override those safety limits and recruit way more muscle fibers. The capacity exists, we just can't tap into it voluntarily through normal exercise.
Okay, so our muscles can do more, we just can't usually make them. And when we exercise, we're trying to make the muscles grow, right? Hypertrophy or hyperplasia.
Exactly. Hypertrophy is making the existing cells bigger. Hyperplasia is maybe adding new cells. Exercise stimulates both, depending on how you train.
But the results we get from exercise aren't just about effort, are they? The chapter mentions other factors.
Yeah, it's a whole system. Your circulation needs to be good. The support structure around the cells matters, those mitochondria. And then there are things working against growth, like biochemical stress, oxidative stress, inflammation from the workout itself.
So it's complex. Exercise is vital but limited.
Which perfectly sets the stage for the next part of the chapter.
Yeah.
It's going beyond exercise with this high-tech approach, HIFEM.
HIFEM, high-intensity focused electromagnetic technology. Explain that.
Okay, so HIFEM creates this powerful magnetic field. It's focused, meaning it targets specific areas, penetrating through the skin to get right to the muscle and fat layers underneath.
And what does that magnetic field do?
It induces electrical currents within the muscle tissue itself. This causes really intense muscle contractions.
Intense. But the book says it's comfortable? That seems counterintuitive.
It does, but that's a key point. Because it uses a magnetic field, it bypasses a lot of the pain receptors in the skin you normally get triggered by, say, surface electrical stimulation patches. It can go deeper and stronger without as much surface sensation.
Okay, so what are the benefits of these intense magnetically induced contractions?
Two main things highlighted in the chapter. First, you get super maximal contractions.
Super maximal, like that car lifting strength, but controlled.
Kind of, yeah. It's forcing contractions far stronger than anything you could do consciously. Like weightlifting causes micro damage that triggers growth, these contractions do the same, leading to muscle hypertrophy, bigger fibers, and potentially hyperplasia, more fibers.
Okay, muscle growth. What's the second benefit?
Fat reduction. The chapter mentions the intense metabolic activity also affects the fat cells in the area through a process involving electroporation, contributing to fat burning and utilization.
Right, electroporation, making cell membranes more permeable.
Interesting. And this HIFEM tech is the basis for the Emsculpt devices.
Exactly. Emsculpt was the first device approved for this non-invasive muscle building and fat reduction. But the chapter really focuses on the newer version, Emsculpt Neo.
Neo. What's the difference? What does the Neo part add? It adds radiofrequency energy, RF, delivered at the same time as the HIFEM magnetic pulses.
Okay, HIFEM plus RF. How does that combo work? Why add heat?
The RF does a couple of things. First, it quickly warms up the muscle tissue, kind of like a pre-workout warm-up, which actually makes the HIFEM contractions even more effective.
Ah, synergy.
Yes. And second, critically, the RF heats the layer of fat just beneath the skin. The chapter says within about 4 minutes, it reaches a temperature that causes permanent damage to those fat cells.
Permanent damage. So the fat cells actually die off.
That's what the book states. They undergo programmed cell death, apoptosis, and then your body's lymphatic system gradually clears them away over weeks and months.
And they don't grow back.
The number of fat cells is reduced in that treated area, and adults don't typically grow new fat cells. So the reduction can be long-lasting. The source mentions studies showing around a 30% decrease in fat thickness.
But you could still gain weight overall if you eat too much, right? The remaining cells can get bigger.
Oh, absolutely. It's localized fat reduction, not overall weight loss or a license to ignore diet. But that combination, the RF, enhancing the HIFEM muscle building while also triggering fat cell death. That's why Emsculpt Neo studies show better results.
Better results? Like how much better?
The chapter quotes around 25% average increase in muscle mass with NEO, compared to about 16% with the original HIFEM-only device.
25% muscle growth without lifting weights. That's pretty significant. What parts of the body can it target?
The book lists quite a few. Abs, obviously, buttocks, biceps, triceps, hamstrings, calves, even flanks, the love handles and outer thighs, quads. Pretty versatile.
And the chapter dives into the research, right? Including work by Dr. Kinney, one of the book's authors. What did his study show?
Yeah, his study used the earlier HIFEM device on the abdomen. 4 30-minute sessions over 2 weeks. They used MRI, so objective measurements.
And the results?
Pretty impressive. Average 16% increase in muscle thickness, 19% reduction in fat thickness, and even an 11% improvement in diastasis recti, that abdominal muscle separation. Plus an average waist circumference reduction of about 1.5 inches, 4 centimeters.
Wow. How long did those changes last?
The initial studies tracked people for 6 months and the benefits held.
Oh.
Later studies, according to the book, showed effects persisting for up to a year.
Okay, let's really nail down this fat loss part. The chapter contrasts how exercise burns fat versus this Emsculpt lipolysis. It sounded quite different.
Very different mechanisms. Exercise fat loss is gradual, right? You burn calories, your body pulls fat out of storage to use as fuel for the activity. It takes time and consistent effort. The book mentions maybe needing 5 hours of exercise a week to lose a pound of fat that way.
Okay, using fat for fuel. What about Emsculpt?
With Emsculpt, those supramaximal contractions cause this massive localized stress response. Your body releases a huge amount of epinephrine, adrenaline, right there in the treatment area. This triggers what the book calls an extreme catabolic reaction, basically. Intense fat breakdown. So much fat breaks down into free fatty acids, FFAs, that the levels become overwhelming, almost toxic to the fat cells themselves.
Toxic?
Yeah, the sheer concentration of FFAs triggers those fat cells to initiate apoptosis, that programmed cell death we talked about. It's not using fat for energy. It's more like the intensity overloads the fat cells, causing them to self-destruct.
That is a completely different pathway than exercise.
Fascinating. So it's the extreme muscle work causing a fat cell die-off nearby.
That's the mechanism described. The HIFEM pushes muscles way beyond normal limits, leading to both muscle growth and this unique lipolysis.
And the chapter also makes a point of comparing HIFEM to other electrical stim methods like those skin patches.
Yes, important distinction. Skin patches use surface electricity. It struggles to get deep, loses power in the fat, and can be uncomfortable or even painful because it hits skin nerves directly. Needle stimulation is painful and tricky. Direct current also stays superficial, risk of burns.
But HIFEM gets around that how? By using the magnetic field. The magnetic field passes right through the skin without much interaction. Then it induces the electrical current deeper down, right in the muscle. So less surface stimulation, less pain, more effective deep muscle contraction. A more elegant solution, really.
Okay, let's crystallize this. Key takeaways from Chapter 42.
Yeah.
What are the big points?
All right. Number 1, HIFEM tech can safely build muscle faster than exercise alone, even with age. Number 2, it reduces localized fat pockets. Number 3, Emsculpt specifically shows good results, backed by studies and anecdotes, for core, arms, glutes, calves, lasting at least 6 months.
Practical considerations.
Big one. No metal implants near the treatment area. Huge contraindication. The book positions it as really good for guys meeting core strength. Maybe they have bad backs. Great for a jumpstart back into fitness.
Okay.
Also good to supplement regular workouts for that extra edge, or as a non-surgical finishing touch for guys who are already fit but have stubborn spots.
Makes sense. But the chapter doesn't just stop with the device. It outlines this whole physical rejuvenation protocol from Dr. Brandeis.
Right. It puts Emsculpt into a bigger picture. And it starts with Dr. Kinney's own experience, which is pretty telling.
Oh, yeah. What was his take?
Well, having a competitive background, he immediately recognized the intensity of the contractions as something beyond normal exercise. He tried it himself, saw results mentioned adding an inch to his arms, and even his son noticed his abs looked more defined, like they had borders.
Okay. That's a good endorsement. So who is this broader protocol aimed at?
The book describes it as being for busy, mature men. Guys who might be dealing with lower testosterone, maybe haven't had the best diet over the years, and want an efficient way to claw back some lost muscle and improve their physique.
And tracking is key, you mentioned.
Absolutely. Start with baselines. Get your testosterone checked at a body composition scan. The book mentions in-body. Basic blood work, kidney, liver, vitamins like B and B12, thyroid, cholesterol, PSA, maybe even a heart calcium score to check underlying cardiovascular health before ramping up activity.
Right. Measure first. So what are the actual steps in the protocol?
Okay, step 1, if needed, boost testosterone. The book mentions BioT pellets or possibly supplements like DHA-DIM. Step 2, Emsculpt Neo. Specific plan, like weekly sessions for 6 weeks, then maintenance, targeting abs, glutes, arms usually first.
So hormones and tech, then exercise.
Yep, they work together. Vigorous exercise is crucial. The mantra is sweat. Burns calories around 500 an hour. Consistency and intensity matter more than the type of exercise.
And specifics.
Cardio, at least 40 minutes, 4 days a week. Aim for a target heart rate 75% of max. Calculated as 220 age, 0.75. Weight training. Circuit style, 2-3 times a week, hitting all major muscle groups. Find something you enjoy. And don't forget, flexibility stretch or do yoga for 15 minutes every morning.
Makes sense. What about diet in this protocol? I mentioned BMR.
Yeah, understanding your basal metabolic rate, calories burned at rest, is fundamental. For weight loss, the formula is Eat your BMR calories plus exercise calories minus 500 per day. That aims for about a pound of fat loss a week, sustainably, not a crash diet.
And protein.
Minimum, 0.5 grams per pound of body weight daily. Source doesn't matter as much as getting enough. The overall diet should be high protein, lower carb, lots of nutrients and fiber, healthy fats. Supports various named diets that fit that mold.
Any key supplements mentioned besides protein?
Yes, supporting nitric oxide is called mission critical for circulation and blood pressure. Yeah. A specific product is mentioned. Also, creatine monohydrate 5 grams daily, split pre-post workout for energy supply, ATP. And basic hydration, drink plenty of fluids, check your urine color.
Okay, quite comprehensive. The chapter ends with case studies, right? Mr. W and Mr. T.
Yeah, and the results are presented as astonishing, but reproducible. Mr. W, 61 years old, demanding job. In 3 months, gained over 5 pounds of muscle, lost 9 pounds of fat, optimized his T levels. The book says he gained an aura of invincibility.
Invincibility at 61. Okay. And Mr. T?
He was 66, working with a trainer, but stuck. In 4 months on the protocol, gained over 5 pounds muscle, but lost almost 22 pounds of fat. Again, optimized testosterone. Became much stronger, thinner, more confident. These stories really drive home the potential impact when combining everything.
So the protocol isn't just Emsculpt, it's a whole synergistic system using tech to boost the fundamentals.
Exactly. Hormones, diet, exercise, supplements, tracking, all amplified by the targeted muscle building and fat reduction from Emsculpt Neo. Requires dedication, and yes, some parts like Emsculpt and T-therapy have costs, but much of it is lifestyle changes.
Right. So for you listening, this chapter really speaks to anyone noticing those age-related changes, maybe feeling stuck in their fitness journey, dealing with limitations, or even just curious about where health and tech are heading.
Yeah, the book makes it clear Emsculpt isn't magic. It doesn't replace healthy habits. But the evidence presented suggests it can be a really potent tool to boost your results, especially for men hitting their 30s and beyond, dealing with these natural biological shifts.
It definitely leaves you thinking. A provocative thought, perhaps. How do technologies like this, ones that push our bodies beyond what we thought was voluntarily possible, how does that change how we view aging, fitness limits, and maybe even human potential itself in this century?
It really does challenge old assumptions about physical decline, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Well, that wraps up our deep dive into Chapter 42 of The 21st Century Man, Emsculpt and High-Tech Muscle Building. We covered a lot. The challenge of muscle aging, exercise limits, the science of HIFEM and Emsculpt Neo, the impressive results, and that comprehensive protocol.
It's another great example of the kind of detailed, actionable information you find throughout this book. Really valuable stuff.
We definitely encourage you to grab a copy of The 21st Century Man, read the whole chapter, explore the entire book. There's so much more in there.
And please join us next time on the 21st Century Man podcast. We'll be jumping into the next chapter, Chapter 43.
Biohacking.
Sounds intriguing. Thanks for tuning in to this deep dive.